Welcome back everyone, this is Am and I'm bringing you this video today as we have just received the very first ban list for Battle Spirit Saga from Bandai. A lot of these. If you've seen the original post, you already know. If not, I'll link it down below. Starting next week, October 6th, we won't be able to play any more of Raptodon, Netherworld Depths, and X-Spider, as well as Volcanic Break is now limited to 1. Now, there are quite a few videos from other creators. If you haven't seen it, go check them out. They go through the cards and the developer notes, super helpful. What I wanted to do today is actually go through color by color, looking at different archetypes and look at some alternative cards and give you some ideas of how can you replace these cards. Obviously, this is quite preliminary and high level. The lore set is coming out next week and set 3 is coming out next month, so a lot of things will change, but just want to give you some ideas, and I'm really excited to see how the community comes together and creates new decks. So leave a comment if you have any other cards that you like to suggest, and without any further ado, let's dive straight into it. First up, we have White, and White has definitely been impacted the most, I would say, as X-Spider and Depths are both going away, and they were a staple in the more control type of White deck. So now White is losing a very important portion of the control with X-Spider, a foundational draw engine with Depths. Still, White has some good drawing options with Snowbit, Aegis, and Nomengard, but they all have conditions to be met in order to draw that card, so they're not extremely reliable. In that sense, we could look at splashing red in our White control, with Volcanic Canyon being a great nexus that allows us to get that extra card at the beginning of the turn. We need to discard one, but it allows us to really filter through our deck and find those pieces that we're looking for. So if our hand is too heavy, we can discard the big creature. If we're looking for the big creature, we can discard something else. Star Blessed Draw, obviously fantastic card, and now we're seeing more and more when Summon Spirits being played. So it can be a great way to go +1, drawing 2 cards. We can still play it for 4. It still feels good to pay 4 and draw 2 cards. And if we play Volcanic Canyon, we might end up like paying even 3. So these are two cards for drawing. For the more control side, obviously we still have Alk that give us that immovable object where we can still do suppression, Infinity Shield. But then also we have Blitz Eagle that came out in set 2, which has the same effect on level 2. Plus, it has some great purple, green, and yellow armor. And the green and yellow armor, I think, are super relevant right now. And so it's worth a consideration, as well as it gets the heavy discount from Noman City if we are playing a Machine Beast type of control deck. One card I wanted to also include here is Holy Elixir. This comes from the starter deck, and it's a phenomenal card. It hasn't seen any play, I think, but it's a when summon burst, we're able to ramp 2 cores and we can refresh our spirits. It's a great defensive burst spell, as well as it gives us that ramp. So in a more control style of deck, could be an interesting option. For aggro and mid-range, I kind of included a few cards that from left to right go more from aggro to mid-range, but like what can we expect to see? And we have already seen the Ant Stripe back being a great tool for wide aggro, where setting burst, when they lose a piece, they can bring back 2 more, as well as the Radiance to enable that draw that it's has its condition easily met, needing 3 symbols, with wide aggro being able to go so wide. Valkyrie Mist has been part of wide aggro for quite a long time, but I think it's worth considering it in a more mid-range style of decks now that some top-end heavy cards are coming back, and the majority of these targets can be bounced as 7 or less, like Elk is on here, but you can think about Nemesis, for example. You have Dyna and whatnot. So I think Valkyrie Mist will definitely see a strong comeback in mid-range, and maybe some control as well. Bounce is definitely a important keyword for white. Odin is a fantastic card that allows us to bounce cost 3 or less, both attacking and defending, and it also restand if we have a white nexus. So why not, if we want to play a bit more mid-rangey, being able to handle aggro decks is a great option. As well as Bridget. Bridget is a one of my favorite cards in this game. It comes from the white starter deck, and it allows us to bounce a creature when it's destroyed, and it has the soul core, which is not used by many other cards unless you play Pegasian in white. And also it has a stun effect when it blocks a creature. That creature is not going to refresh. Is a great tempo option. And in the mid-range kind of decks, when we look at how we're going to enable these draws, from set 2 we have Donor, that both in attack and defense allows us to strip cores from a token and draw 2 cards. Now, these tokens are any tokens, right? So we're looking at the Strike Back, and that could be an option, both defensively and offensively. We can crush a spirit and then burst Strike Back, and then use Donor to draw 2 cards. So the drawing options with white are still not the best, but this could be a good idea. Next up we have red, and obviously red have lost Oviraptidon for their Pterosaur archetype, and now Volcanic Break is limited to 1. Oviraptidon definitely impacts the speed of the Pterosaur deck, requiring more time to play Giganorex, but also very importantly, so Nexus Hazard now is also a bit slower. So something to consider is how are you gonna replace that speed element, and you still have some great options with Dilophosa and Flame Rat being Emperor Beast, so they count towards Giganorex. Unfortunately, there aren't many Pterosaurs that you can replace Oviraptidon with, and I guess luckily so, as a non-red player, red is still one of the most scary color. But also a 0 drop could be an option. Obviously, it doesn't count towards those discounts, but in a more aggressive style deck, it still allows for a quick discount for other spirits, as well as, when you get to the point where you can core up, it also gets that offensive option, being able to attack. The main 2 spirits that I think are worth a considerations are Dilophosa, as it costs as cheap as 1, and with 1 core is above that Burning Force range. With 3 cores with AK, it gets over most spirits, early game spirits. And Flame Rat being again an Emperor Beast and enabling that draw, it's quite a good option. It's not super loved as a card. It's quite expensive to keep it cored up to draw that card, but it's still essentially a threat for the opponent that needs to deal with it. Otherwise, every turn you are getting a card. So Pterosaur, yes, is losing that speed acceleration with Oviraptidon, but it's still extremely powerful. That Volcanic Break limit to 1. Although a lot of people were confused about it, I think it's gonna enable other decks to be a bit more free to roam, I would say. But that means that every deck will play 1 Volcanic Break, which is still scary. For red, other archetypes, we're already speculating Nova being in a great place. It's not much that changes for Nova. We see as a 1-drop Ray Needle be more popular in Nova decks. We just know that it's gonna have a bit more presence now. We've seen some good results already in previous recent Grand Opens. So really excited to see a new Nova list and how Nova will rise back or rise for the first time, I guess. For mid-range, there's still like people that want to play red, right? Like red is not just Pterosaur or Nova. There are a lot of red good stuff. Also in set 2, there's some like really cute cards that haven't seen much play, but I kind of want to put on screen some of my personal favorite picks with the new Dragonoid Dragon Commander having that 2 symbol option that could be enabled and can catch people off guard. Thunder Leon is an amazing card that allows for removing those small creatures that we've seen the 0 drops, but also some early drops that don't cross the 2k mark. So it can come in, destroy 2k or less, don't trigger when destroyed effect, and is a Emperor Beast. So could see play in Pterosaur, and also it draws us a card. So pretty good card. And final mention, one of my favorite cards, even though it's not very much loved, Blazing Boar. 4 cost 1 reduction. When summoned, we take a red spirit back from trash. I think it's a great card. The BP break is not great. It's still very costly because it costs 3. But in a mid-range style of deck, when we might crash a lot of spirits and we need to get back that one piece that can help us, I think Raging Boar can be a great option. Moving up to purple. Now, purple has lost steps, but same old Big W. I mean, they don't care about depths that much. There are so many drawing options in purple, and yes, it will still hurt, I'm sure, for purple player not being able to play the best Nexus in the game for just 3. But there's so many ways to go about drawing cards. Depending what kind of purple deck you want to build, there are cards like Nemesis that still allows you to destroy a body to draw 2. And with a Rotting Swamp that makes you draw a card during your attack step when one of your spirit is destroyed, you can get that extra draw. As well as with Rotting Swamp, let's not forget the level 2 effect that allows you to take back a Serpent, which, for example, Black Lance can be a target. Black Lance being a great option for drawing, having that when summoned draw 2 cards, which is also on level 2. That is kind of a great thing, because if you're trying to play around some when summon burst, like, let's not forget about that, right? But we can draw cards during our attack step, our main step. We have options for more core control type with Purple Smoke Valley, and new cards in set 2 that are extremely relevant still is the Impaler Forest, allowing us to, bring back a body. So if we destroy with Nemesis, we want to bring it back. A card that I haven't included here, as it's probably already in every deck, is Lamorak. But Lamorak lets us, bring back the first purple spirits that gets destroyed during our turn. So a lot of option to cycle spirits, draw cards. Special mention to Magic Swordsman Dragonaga that allows us to draw on turn 1. So if you're really looking for that early acceleration, find your pieces. Obviously there is the Dragonaga Assassin, although is a much slower option, needing that Soul Core and 3 cores to draw a card. But still, great option all over the board. There's not much to say here. I'm curious to see, how purple player will replace depths entirely, but there's no lack of options. So these are just some card that you can pick instead. but I'm sure you will have a great time indeed. Let's talk about yellow. So I'm sure yellow players looked at this ban list with a smile, as red was the biggest threat and what kept yellow on check. And now with Overraptidon gone and Volcanic Break limited to 1, they can, you know, go back to a little bit of more freedom. Obviously, Volcanic Break was that big threat that would, you know, target things like Dual Eagle and Hippocampo, and without that second level of Phantasmal Paradise, Dual Eagle was always that primary target. But now both Blast and Luster decks have a bit more ways to maneuver around red. So I'm really excited to see how, you know, the whole Odorlander archetype is going to develop. Arcana Joker being above Burning Force now has, you know, seen a lot of plays recently with the unblockable ability. But I'm sure Luster will, you know, continue to do well, and cards like Flavum that wasn't played that much because of that like low stats will be considered, as well as Ryut. Seen a lot of plays, especially now that like bouncing is so popular, like negating that bounce, making sure that your Luster creatures are protected from you know, going back to hand. So making Luster resolve at the end of the battle is extremely important. One thing to mention, obviously, is, you know, if you see it creeping in the corner there, there's Feral Slash. Feral Slash is still a huge threat, and, you know, kind of see Feral Slash as a Burning Force 2.0. Not being able to kill 2 Spirit, will kill 1, but, you know, yellow relies heavily on their Nexuses, so there's still a lot of threats for yellow. But nonetheless, super excited to see what yellow players will be cooking. These are just a few ideas, but looking for more Fable Beast, Luster, and Odorlanders. And finally, we have green. So green has came out with the latest expansion on set 2, and people have been loving playing the Swift and green creatures. We've seen some good success with aggro green decks. The main struggle for green is really drawing, right? These bans and limitation don't really affect green that much, apart from the bit more mid-range style of green that just splash stats for that draw. As there are many options, there is only one card, which is the Stump City, sorry, that gives us that draw if we take a life, if it's down with 3 courts. So many conditions to meet. There is the new Nexus coming in lore set, is quite interesting, but still very limited options. So if we look at other ways that we can draw in red, we have some good old friends in red and purple that can be extremely helpful. Again, the Nexuses with Canyon and Rotting Swamp. Canyon, again, with that filtering, allowing us to find the pieces that we need. And Rotting Swamp actually is a great option in green that sees a lot of body, extremely wide, wants to be aggressive, might lose bodies during the attack, and so we are able to replace the lost spirit with a draw with Rotting Swamp. And obviously Star Blast, again, another option, especially in green where we ramp, and so we are not scared of using 4 mana for a Star Blast draw to find 2 extra cards. Nonetheless, green will see the new Tokiwa from the lore set, and with the spoils of set 3, I'm very excited to see more green cards popping up. But if you are a green player, you want to play aggro, these changes don't make much difference to your style probably. If you want to play a bit more mid-range, these are some good options. So this is it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video. Thanks for the support on the channel. please do leave a comment. Let me know which cards you think are gonna see play after the ban list. Tell me which cards you wanna play after this ban list. And if you like, subscribe, leave a like. Coming soon, there is a new podcast that I'm working on with the rest of the UK crew. So keep an eye out for that. I might already put a link in the description or in the comments. But until then, take care and see you soon.